Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 181. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, we want to be like Ellie, fit and strong as we age.
Yes, we do. You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. Sign up for our newsletter while you're there.
Today we talk with Liz Plosser about protein, amino acids, and more. Let's go to the podcast.
Liz Plosser, a former editor-in-chief of Women's Health magazine, is the founder of the Best Case Scenario Substack, a wellness playbook helping people feel a little better today than they did yesterday.
A veteran of the wellness industry, she has also worked at Well Plus Good, Soul Cycle, Self, and Cosmopolitan. Liz is an NASM certified trainer. That means National Academy of Sports Medicine, and a nutrition coach, as well as the author of a book, Own Your Morning, Reset Your AM to Unlock Your Potential.
I'm really excited to talk to Liz today about today's topic, the importance of protein and amino acids for women in midlife, for aging well, maintaining muscle, losing weight, and for overall longevity. Liz has been on an incredible nutrition and protein journey herself, and I know you're all going to love hearing her story.
Welcome to the podcast, Liz. It's great to have you as our guest.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you both today.
I have to ask, before we get into all the details of today's conversation, can you tell us what is a Substack? I've heard of blogs and video logs and online newsletters, but I'm not sure what a Substack is.
Yes, it's kind of like if an email newsletter and a blog had a baby together. That is Substack. It's a relatively new platform where individual writers and creators go and produce their work. They write and self-publish, and you can subscribe to different writers on topics that are interesting to you. And depending on how frequently they post, it lands in your inbox. I personally post twice a week, but you can also come onto the platform. It has a standalone app and just sort of explore. It's an awesome place where some really beautiful writers that you wouldn't discover through traditional legacy media have found and built amazing followings.
I know a few columnists who have sort of left, who are no longer with newspapers, are now doing Substack.
Yes. Yeah, it's fun every day to see who's joining. And we were just laughing about this before, but of course, now Substack has added video. So I'm starting to play with that. But, I just went there to write.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm going to have to download that app and start poking around because
I think you guys would love it. Yeah.
I miss all the magazines that I used to subscribe to and read and see, and haven't really found a good place to go to see that kind of content. So terrific. Thank you.
We just said that you've been on an incredible nutrition and protein journey. I'm interested to hear what a protein journey is, but can you tell us about that?
Yes, I affectionately call it my protein journey. Sure, I'll share a little bit. To be honest, even as an editor who focused on nutrition, health, and fitness my entire career, I knew from assigning stories, writing stories, and editing stories that protein is an incredibly important macronutrient. But it wasn't until I passed 40 and really in the last few years that I got serious about how crucial adequate protein is in our diets, particularly in midlife and as we're aging. That was through doing a lot of research, talking to experts, listening to a lot of podcasts like this one. And the more I learned, the more clear it was to me that the RDA's guidelines for protein, they are really built to keep you in survival mode. They are not created or designed to put you in thrive mode. And I don't know about you two, but I want to thrive while I'm on this earth. I'm also a mom of 3. I'm very active. I love working out. So upon looking at how much protein I was having on an average day, it was only about 40 or 50 grams. And the experts say that for somebody like me, the ideal would be more in the range of 120 to 130 grams. So that was my journey, really getting clear about where I was, where I needed to go, and how to get there.
Wow, that's a lot to digest right there. Thinking about, I want to ask another question about that, sort of a follow-up. How do you know, like you said, someone like me should be 125. How do you know how much for you?
Well, I'm basing that off of, one, the fact that I'm in my 40s. I'm 46 years old. 2, I'm active. I'm working out at least 4 times a week. And then 3, for the easiest calculation, the experts recommend, and this is based on a ton of studies in science, that you consume 1 gram of protein per pound of ideal body weight. So for me, that fluctuates. It's about 125, maybe a little over 130. So that's a really easy way to determine the amount of protein you should eat in a given day.
So if your so it's your ideal body weight. So if you're overweight, you still go with the ideal. But all right, so if your ideal weight is 150, then you need 150 grams of protein.
Bingo.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot more. Wow.
It is a lot.
So, but you were at like 1/3 of what you should have been eating.
That's right. And when I started changing my behavior and looking at nutrition labels and looking up how much protein was in common foods, I pretty quickly started to get the hang of how to level up how much I was having, how to boost it. And to be clear, I didn't go from 40 to 125 overnight, and I don't actually recommend you do that. That's a recipe for burnout, and you'll feel overwhelmed. I did 1 week of monitoring what my typical diet looked like without changing a thing. I did a second week of really getting curious about how much protein was in different foods I was eating or experimenting with. The third week, I made a goal to try to get to 100 grams of protein a day. And then it wasn't until week 4 that I really took it up the notch all the way to 125.
So in addition to being NASM certified trainer, you're also a nutrition coach. So why is eating enough protein so important for women, especially women over 50?
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics. I'm on a mission to talk about this. Protein is essential for our bodies to operate at optimal health. It is a macronutrient that is crucial to our overall well-being. Many people think about protein when they think about their body composition and lean muscle mass, which is true. When we consume protein, we're actually eating essential amino acids, which as your body digests, it takes those amino acids and then uses them to activate protein synthesis in the body. So that helps cell turnover in all of your muscles, in your immune system, in your brain. So it is helping with fat loss, if you're interested in that. It is helping preserve and build lean muscle mass. But on top of that, it's helping you calibrate your mood. It's helping you be more clear and focused. It's helping your energy. It's helping boost your immune system. These are all really important at any time in your life, but particularly in midlife when our hormones are fluctuating. And as we know, that has a lot of impact. And sadly, nobody consulted me on the rules of aging, but sadly, that impact is not great. It's a negative impact throughout our bodies. So protein can really help counteract that to feel strong, energized, focused, sleep better, all the things we want.
All right. So we've talked about how much protein to eat, but do you have any suggestions about sources of protein? Are some sources better than others?
So any source of protein is great. But I guess I'll just jump right into the group of people that it could be a little more challenging for, which is vegans and vegetarians. I personally am not vegan or vegetarian. I have a lot of friends who are. The issue with plant-based foods is that many of them do not contain all 9 essential amino acids. And your body needs all 9 in order to activate protein synthesis. So some it doesn't make on its own. So you need to make sure that whether it's in one food or through a combination of foods, you're getting all 9 essential amino acids. Now, common foods like eggs, fish, lean meats, those animal-based products do contain all of the essential amino acids. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yeah. Okay.
So, why is protein and muscle mass so important for overall health? And why is muscle so important for body composition?
Women, especially women over 40, experience age-related muscle loss. It's also called sarcopenia. I'm sure your listeners have heard of that.
Yeah. We all know about that. Yes.
We know about that, I'm sure.
We don't like to admit that, but it definitely is something.
Yeah, so that's real, and that's something that all of us women are going to go through. And on top of that, there are hormonal shifts that affect our metabolism as well as our recovery. So adequate protein intake helps maintain that lean muscle mass, your bone strength, as well as your energy. Now, muscle is important to your body composition because when you have more muscle, you have a higher resting metabolic rate and you have a better fat to lean mass ratio. So this helps, promote overall better body composition. It improves your strength and it protects you against age-related fat gain and metabolic decline, something that, is just part of aging. Again, I didn't make the rules.
Right. Yeah. So, what do you recommend for people who struggle with eating the recommended amount of protein?
Yeah. So as we discussed, when you hear that number, 1 gram per pound of ideal body weight, if your jaw drops when you hear that, you are not alone. And yes, that's a lot of protein. Now, I want to be clear, getting protein from whole foods is wonderful because not only are you getting all those amino acids that are in the protein product, but you're also getting micronutrients, antioxidants, minerals, vitamins, really good for you stuff. But there are supplements that can help you get to your daily goal. One of them is protein powder, particularly whey. But my overall top way to get there on days that I'm just not going to hit it, I don't call anything in the health space a hack, but this is about as close as you can get to a hack. And that is an essential amino acid supplement. An essential amino acid supplement comes in either powder form or capsule form. And it has been created through a meticulous scientific process by PhDs to have the exact right ratio of each of those 9 essential amino acids. And when you mix it with water and drink it, it automatically hits your system. It's immediately bioavailable. Unlike eating a meal that has protein in it, your body doesn't have to digest and pull apart all the macronutrients. It's just bam, it hits you. And your body can immediately begin using it to activate protein synthesis to help you with fat loss and building lean muscle mass and doing all that other awesome good for you stuff that we talked about.
Why and when did you add aminos to your daily regime?
So it was a little bit after it was a little bit deeper into my protein journey. Yeah, I started with whole foods, and the eating more protein in my regular diet made a big difference in how I felt. I noticed that I had more energy, that I was sleeping more soundly. It felt like I was recovering from gym workouts more quickly. And that was really motivating to me and really caused me to just learn even more. And also as a health journalist, this is, my job is to be curious and to dig into these supplements and, what's out there, what could be helping my body. As I looked into amino acids more as a supplement, I realized that there were hundreds, if not thousands, of gold standard studies that had been published in top leading journals that showed how helpful amino acids could be. So that was really the moment where I was like, okay, let me give this a try. There's literally zero research that shows there's any downside or any safety concern or risk. So the best case scenario is I feel even better. So I began adding it by having 1 scoop with my morning glass of ice water. And it took about 2 weeks of consistently doing that every day. But within 2 weeks, I noticed that I wasn't getting sore after my workouts. I felt even more energized than after I began consuming more protein. And you guys aren't going to believe this, but it's the truth. Even as a really active person who's always played sports and loved working out, I've never really felt like my reflection in the mirror represented or reflected how much work I was doing at the gym. When I added the EAAs, Suddenly I saw muscle definition. I even started to get the hint of ab definition. Now, I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it to feel good. I'm a mom. I'm busy. But I tell you what, those body benefits and seeing your hard work pay off, and zipping up your jeans and just feeling strong and confident, that was incredibly motivating too.
What's the difference between protein powder and powder that's amino acids? Because if protein is made up of amino acids, if you're using a protein powder, are you just not getting all of them, or what's the difference there?
So protein powder is great too. It can also help bridge the gap. Whey protein powder in particular has all 9 of those essential amino acids, but it has some other stuff in it too. So, and you tend to like stir it into yogurt or put it in a smoothie. You're not just having protein powder plain. That would be kind of gross in my opinion. So it's just less efficient for your body to break it down and get those amino acids out of it. Essential amino acids are the actual building blocks of protein. So when you consume them by themselves, it's much more powerful. It's 6 times more powerful at activating protein synthesis than whey protein powder, and 9 times more powerful at activating protein synthesis than whole foods. Now, again, I'm not suggesting you subsist on essential amino acids. There's so many good things we need from food. But if you think about it, when you have fish or even a lean cut of steak for dinner, you're probably, hopefully, also having some vegetables with it, maybe some grain on the side. Again, all good for you. But when you combine all those different macros, it's just a little less efficient for your body to take it apart, grab the amino acids, and activate that protein synthesis that we want.
Essential amino acids. What does that mean?
Essential amino acids, there are 9 of them. A few of them are called branch chain amino acids. I can run through the names of them if you really want to geek out with me. There's one called histidine, which supports tissue repair and immune function. There's another one called isoleucine, which aids in muscle repair, energy production, and immune support. Leucine is the one you probably hear about most often. That one is key for muscle protein synthesis and recovery. Lysine supports collagen production, immune function, as well as calcium absorption. We can keep going, but each of them does something a little bit different in the body. But the key here is that you need all 9 to activate protein synthesis.
And your body does not create them.
There of them your body can do on its own. The essential amino acids there are 20 total amino acids.
Okay.
The 9 that we're talking about, thank you. I should have led with that. The 9 that we're talking about, your body doesn't make on its own. So you've got to get it some other way.
All right. Essential amino acids is a subset of amino acids.
Correct. Yes.
From what I'm hearing, let me see if I got this right. The essential amino acids are building blocks that just digest better and get directly to their work before. Whereas when
you don't have to digest them, they just get to work.
Okay, so
when you take the supplement.
Okay.
Otherwise, if you're getting it from food, you got to digest so your body can,
your body has to do everything.
So if you're eating a piece of chicken, you're going to get the amino acids, but your body has to process the chicken to retrieve them.
Bingo.
But if you drink the supplement, it just hits your system.
That's right. It's immediately bioavailable. So your body starts using it immediately.
Okay. I had never considered that. Okay. Yeah.
Pretty cool, right?
You take it once a day in the morning with a glass of water. You mix it into your water.
That's right. I take it with ice water. It comes in various flavors. The brand that I've been taking for the last few years is called Kion. I love Kion because it's third-party tested, which, there's a lot of supplements out there. So that's my biggest recommendation to your listeners is to make sure that whatever supplements you're considering, that they're third-party tested. Kion's doesn't have any mold or contaminants. They come in a variety of flavors like mango and mixed berry. Watermelon is my personal favorite. So I began by taking 1 scoop every morning. Now I will tell you, because it's a journey, right? As I've learned more and my body and needs have changed, sometimes during the day, I'll have another scoop. I love to have one middle of the afternoon, like in between lunch and dinner. It tastes good. It's just a great energy boost when I don't need a snack, but, maybe my energy is flagging a little bit. Some people like to take it before bed. Protein synthesis Prime time is overnight when we sleep. So you can experiment and play, but I think the most important thing is to take it every single day and do it at a time of day that you'll remember. And for me, that's first thing in the morning.
Okay. Can you have too much?
So I am not a scientist and I have not been in the lab with them. There is an upper limit, but you would have to have a lot. And if you're having it several times a day, you are not at risk at overdoing it.
Okay.
What are the specific benefits to taking amino acids for women over 50? It's that sleeping better, muscle recovery quicker.
Yeah, I mean, I just because myself and a lot of friends are in this midlife stage, whether I'm almost 50, a lot of us are there well past it. I think what I hear quite often, and this was something I heard from readers all the time when I was editor-in-chief of Women's Health, is the frustration that body composition changes, even though we're not changing how we're eating. We're doing everything we used to do for activity and exercise. And that can be incredibly disheartening when you're like, what's going on? This used to work. Why isn't it working anymore? So that's just one way that EAAs or aminos, the essential amino acid supplement, can be really helpful when women are, undergoing those natural changes that happen because of hormone fluctuations and how that impacts our muscle mass and bone density and so many other things in our body. So in addition to that, perimenopause, menopause, and the years afterward, there's also a lot of changes that are happening in our brains, to our bones, and our immune systems. As I said, protein synthesis in the body, awesome for your muscles, but it's necessary for keeping all of the different systems and organs in our body healthy. For people who are aging and for women who are interested in fat loss and landing at a healthier body composition, essential amino acids can be a total game changer.
You said you use, is it Kion aminos?
Yes, Kion. Mm-hmm.
And I believe that Kion is offering a special for our listeners of 20% if they go to getkion.com/fit.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's right. Get Kion, KION.com/fit.
Okay, we'll put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
But that's nice of them.
Right.
Yeah.
They're a great team. Yeah, it's a good brand.
I wanted to ask you about your experience with adding creatine to your regimen. It was part of your intentional shift as well. And can you explain about that? And how did you know you needed to add that? And how much was enough?
Yes. So around the same time when I was going down all those rabbit holes and on my journey, I also discovered all of this fantastic research about creatine. Now, I would say creatine I had already heard a lot more about. I think that's becoming quite common in conversations. I knew it was out there. I knew there were studies about it. But to be perfectly honest, I had always considered that a supplement that, like guys at the gym who really wanted to be super ripped or were training for bodybuilding competitions. I thought it was a supplement for that type of person. And it never occurred to me that, a woman who had zero interest in those things and just wanted to feel strong and healthy could benefit from it. But as a journalist, the more research I did, the more I learned that creatine has many benefits for women. And while there aren't a ton of studies that have been done specifically on women, which is, to be honest, a problem across the entire health field, we need more studies done on women. There are more and more that have been published on women. And there's definitely an impact when women add creatine as a daily supplement. Much like my aminos, I do it first thing in the morning. I take a scoop, a 5-gram scoop, which is just the standard scoop size, and I actually stir it into that glass of ice water at the same time I'm having my aminos. Creatine is a tasteless powder. So, it just stirs right in and dissolves and you won't even notice it.
So what is creatine?
Creatine is a different kind of supplement. It has nothing to do with amino acids. Creatine is a compound that we also get from food. It's the sources that are highest in creatine tend to be meats, again, animal products. So you're already naturally getting some. And then when your body digests it, it uses it. There's a complicated cellular process that's happening, but your body uses it for energy. So it's not a calorie, but it's the way that it's processed by your cells. At any rate, the biggest difference I noticed was that I had more oomph at the gym. I found myself when I was kind of on the fence about picking up a heavier dumbbell or kettlebell that I surprised myself because I had more. I felt like the rocket ship emoji, you know, that one that's like shooting up into the sky. That's honestly how I felt when I began adding creatine. So what happens with creatine is there's a threshold that your body can use. And so you want to get up to that threshold, which is why a supplement is helpful because we're not necessarily consuming enough. And most of us are not through normal food. And then anything your body doesn't use, it excretes in a compound called creatinine. So the key is like most things in the health space, you got to do it consistently because you need to keep your creatine threshold high. So this is an every single day thing when you remember to do it.
So it is not a protein. It is not protein. So if you're taking a creatine powder, it's not in place of your protein. It's just it's a supplement that you're using for something else. Okay.
Yep. It's not protein. They are not overlapping. They do completely different things in the body.
Okay.
So you eat a lot of protein, you take creatine and the essential amino acids. So do you take any other supplements as well?
Currently, I do not, but I know there are some that I need to add. I definitely could stand to take omega-3 fatty acids every day. And I actually recently had my blood work done as well as a DEXA scan. And the DEXA scan was illuminating because even though I strength train a lot, I have a family history of osteopenia. My grandmother had 2 hip replacements. My mom had 2 hip replacements. I learned only recently that my mother got put on medication for osteopenia when she was approaching menopause. So I have to work extra hard with that high impact strength training to build strong, healthy muscle. I am at high risk of osteopenia or osteoporosis. Because of that, my doctor told me she wants to do one more DEXA. I'm doing it with food alone right now, but I do anticipate that in the very near future, I will also take a calcium and vitamin D supplement.
Okay, yeah. I was just reading about a jumping workout that you should do to help with your bone strength. Besides just the strength training, there's you actually jump up. Well, even jump roping would do it.
Yeah, jumping is a great activity for building bone density as long as it's safe and you don't have injuries that would be contraindicated. Yeah.
Helps with balance too, as long as you have good enough balance to do jump rope.
I am horrible at jump rope, but I'm in awe of anyone who's good at it.
Yeah. I prefer to just jump up and down and not try to trip myself with a rope. But
pantomiming jump rope works too.
All right. That might be the thing.
Yes.
Right, for sure.
I wasn't a particularly good jump roper as a kid, let alone now, but
same.
So, all right. So speaking of strength training, lifting weights, I hear you have an impressive deadlift personal record of 260 pounds.
Yes.
Yeah, that's impressive. I think the highest I've ever done is 170. So I'm impressed.
Well, that's awesome, Jill. Good. I love the deadlift. It's my absolute favorite move. I just feel so strong and badass. Am I allowed to say that word?
I like deadlifting too. How are you able to get to that? How were you able to improve your lifting to that?
Slowly and carefully, because I'm recovering from a sacrum, broken sacrum that I broke it skiing 5 years ago. So,
oh dear,
nobody is more surprised than I am that I've managed to increase my deadlift weight. So for anybody who's thinking about deadlifts, and they are the most awesome full body workout. People think of them as a lower body workout, but Jill, you know this because you got up there. They work your core, your arms and back where it's just from head to toe. So it was slowly over time, carefully adding weight, not trying to go for a new record every week, but, maybe every 3 to 4 weeks, putting on an extra plate, and then a lot of supplemental work. Like many things in life, improving at one activity isn't just about doing that activity over and over and over again. You have to develop some surrounding skills that over time really makes a big difference for that one thing that you care deeply about.
Like cross training, is that what you mean?
Cross training is great and can help prevent injury, so you're not going 110%. every single time you go to the gym. But no, we were talking about balance and stability. Some single side moves like a one-legged Romanian deadlift, awesome for building balance, which is so important for us as the risk of falling and complications from it gets higher as we age. But when you strengthen one side and then you strengthen the other side and you're isolating them, that boosts your overall strength. So then when you put it together and both sides are working, you're just that much more strong.
Yeah, that single leg stuff, that's hard.
Yes, it is.
I do a lot of that because it also helps with balance. But to me, it's very amazing how different your sides could, you walk around with your body thinking, this is my body, and, I've got a right side and a left side. But when you do single leg things or whatever, or single arm things, it's really noticeable how different those two sides are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can be quite humbling. And it's interesting because for me, at least, I'm right side dominant. I'm right-handed. And yet I would think I would have better balance on my right leg, but I don't. It's my left leg that's much sturdier. So
do you ever play soccer? Because your left leg stands and your right leg kicks, and that's why.
Yes.
That's
do you
why.
know, Chris, it took me so long to figure that out. I would talk to trainers and they would be like, that's so weird. And then one day it dawned on me, that I stick it with my left, and I'm a striker. So I was always.
Yes, that's it. Right.
So I guess you played soccer too growing up.
Well, no, I had an injury on my right leg. And so I've worked on my right side a lot with balance and stability for my ankle and everything. And now, it's the opposite, which was weird because, the whole thing about I'm definitely right leg when I kick things, but I'm not playing kickball as much as I used to either.
No, me neither. I would definitely sprain an ankle if I tried to play kickball these days.
Oh, yeah. So why is it so important to do strength training after 50?
Well, this is a lot of what we've been talking about, but just from the fitness perspective. So all of those, hormonal fluctuations, the way our muscle mass is impacted by aging and by the hormone changes, the way our bone density. So essentially, there's a lot going on in the body, but as our estrogen decreases as we age, that impacts our lean muscle mass as well as our bone density. So that can lead to an array of different health problems. I've heard experts call muscle the longevity organ. We think of the heart maybe as the longevity organ, but I actually love that. Like muscle is such a metric and marker for your overall health and well-being. We gotta lift. It's not enough just to take walks. The walks are wonderful and cardiovascular fitness is excellent. Now, you don't have to lift for hours and hours. You don't have to go and crush yourself, but you do have to stimulate that muscle protein synthesis. And that means going and doing a couple of workouts a week, whether it's at a gym or putting something together in your own home. And that will help preserve your lean muscle mass and just make you overall healthier as you head into your elder decades.
If we have listeners that are thinking about starting their strength training journey, how do you recommend they start, and how often, and what equipment, that type of thing?
Yeah. So I recommend starting small, because if you come out too fast or hard, that is a recipe for an injury and also burnout. And we're in this for the long game. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. Pace yourself. So I always tell beginners that 2 times a week to begin is great. I would love to see you eventually build up to 3 to 4 times a week, but 2 times a week is absolutely fantastic. I also suggest that beginners begin with just body weight. You actually don't need to spend a bunch of money on a home gym or a gym membership. There is a lot you can do with just your body weight, particularly if you're really intentional with your movements. I was just leading a group fitness class recently, and I had the women sweating and quivering, and they didn't use a single dumbbell or prop. It was pure body weight. So that's really that brain muscle connection. When we're intentional and think about the muscle that we're working, it exponentially increases the benefits that we get out of that particular exercise. So you want to do just simple, basic movements and do it with good form. There's a lot of information out there, particularly on YouTube, so you can get free demos for how these moves look and how you should look and feel when you're executing them. But some great moves are lunges. You could start with forward lunges, squats. You can pulse, or you can come up and down. Planks are fantastic. Rows was where you hinge from your hips and with your each arm bent 90 degrees, lift them up to sort of squeeze your shoulder blades. Those are some examples. It doesn't have to be really long. 5 to 6 moves where you're hitting every muscle group is great. Now, one last thing I recommend for beginners, if you do have the ability, access, and budget, I think it's awesome to go meet with a trainer because that is a professional who devotes their entire life to helping people get stronger and to do it safely. And also, it can just remove a lot of that intimidation factor. When you know what you're doing, somebody walks you through it, maybe shows you around the gym if you're going to join a fitness center, so you know which machines or weights you're picking up. I've encouraged a lot of friends to do that, and it doesn't mean that you have to invest in meeting with a trainer every single week. One kickoff session to get a plan going is great.
I have a friend who says she won't go see the trainer until she's done enough to warrant it. And I'm like, well, they would help you get there.
That's like people who clean their houses, polish them up before the housekeeper arrives.
Yeah. And the whole thing about form makes such a difference if you have the correct form. And it's easy to kind of cheat yourself and get into a habit of doing it wrong. And then you have to unlearn, which is very difficult as well.
Yeah, I love that observation. That's so true. Something else that I see in workout classes is a lot of times people will use momentum to sort of rush through the move. Along with that brain muscle connection, slowing the move down is a great way to increase volume without actually picking up a heavier weight. It's something called time under tension. And when our muscles hold that contraction, that creates more volume, more stimulus, so it's more strengthening. So for anyone who's, just doing it on their own at home or picking up soup cans, play with time under tension and slow it down.
Yeah, when you said squats and then you said pulses, I just pictured the quiver. You know what I mean? It's just that whole combination of things. Slowing it down definitely makes it more difficult.
Well, you definitely have that brain-body connection if you could picture the quiver. So.
Oh, yeah. Been there.
That's what we want.
Something that you've addressed in your work is body image. And what suggestions do you have for women on embracing body positivity in their own wellness journey?
Well, I think we all deal with this all day, every single day, me included. And I think what's been most helpful to me is actually to reframe it and not necessarily make it about body positivity, which I think can put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be like, but I don't feel great in my body today. I'm tired or I'm bloated. And am I not like a strong, empowered woman because I'm not like in love with my body in this moment? And I think what's healthier and can feel like we're taking that pressure off is actually a form of body neutrality and just sort of observing where we are. Some days we're going to feel fantastic. We're going to be like walking with swagger and really feeling ourselves. And then some days we're not. And maybe it's because we didn't sleep well, or we're bloated because we had some extra salt in our dinner last night, or our hormones are a little wacky right now. There's so many different reasons that our confidence and esteem fluctuate. And so I would just encourage you to sort of ride those waves and don't get down on yourself when you're not feeling positive, and recognize that even when you feel super awesome, this too shall pass. It's like this constant, it's a wave. And so just ride the wave like a surfer.
Cool.
In our introduction, we mentioned you wrote a book, Own Your Morning, and it offers insights into starting the day right. What key takeaways could you highlight for our listeners?
I love mornings so much. And I love that a perfect morning looks different for every single human. So what lights me up in the morning is going to be very different than your dream morning, Chris, or yours, Jill. The book is actually not about waking up earlier, though I do get a lot of questions and readers who want to do that so they can actually, do things that fill them up in the morning. If I could boil it down to the most succinct form, owning your morning is about making small actions that nod to your personal core values. And so the first step is getting clear on what are your core values. If movement is essential to you feeling good in your body and to feeling clear and calm and confident like it is for me, then find a way to move in the morning. Doesn't mean you have to sign up and train for a marathon. I'm not talking about 2 hours of lifting. Maybe it's a walk outside. Maybe it's some gentle stretching for 15 minutes, but find a way to at least check that box and say, I moved a little bit. You are so much better prepared to handle all the zigs and zags of real life when you've done something for yourself. Maybe meditation or journaling and having that quiet introspective time is part of your core value. Maybe community and connection are core to your being. Well, it's hard to, have an hour-long conversation with a girlfriend on the phone at that hour, first thing in the morning. But can you text Chris? Could you text Jill and say, I'm thinking of you. I'm excited to record with you later.
Gee, I think I texted that this morning, didn't I, Jill?
I think you did.
Aw, well, I love that.
Chris is one of the few people I know I can text very early in the morning. And
yeah, I'm like, oh, it's 7 o'clock. Jill's up and she's already done her workout.
Well, you're well on your way. But the key is to get clear on what are these things that light you up, and then to get creative and build little ways to make sure they happen every single morning. Because how you start your day is how you live your day.
And drink your glass of ice water with your amino acids and creatine.
That's right. That's part of my morning routine for sure.
Is there anything else we should have asked you? Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners?
Oh, goodness. I would just say to focus on consistency, that whether it's in your nutrition or with your fitness or how you show up in other parts of your life. Motivation is a wonderful thing, but it's a fleeting thing, and we can't create it out of thin air. Consistency is in our control. So make it about consistency, and you can't help but grow and learn and feel like your best self.
Good.
So if our listeners want to follow you online, where can they go?
So I'm on social media, especially Instagram. My handle is Liz Plosser. That's LizPlosser. I write a Substack called Best Case Scenario, where I do deep dives with experts and the latest studies on all the topics, plus others we talked about today. So you can find that at lizplosser.substack.com. And if you want to connect with me in any other way, you can always reach me via my website, which is lizplosser.com.
Excellent. And I'm just going to remind everyone that they can go to the getkeon.com fit for 20% off the amino acids. Do they sell creatine as well?
They do. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Keon creatine too. Yeah.
Right. And we'll put links to all of that on our show notes. So if somebody's trying to find it, you're driving or you're working out right now, you don't have time to write it down, go to becomingellie.com and click on the links. Thanks so much for being our guest here today, Liz. It's been great talking with you. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.
I feel like we've talked a lot about protein in the past, but not so much about amino acids. That was an interesting conversation.
Yes, it really was. I think Liz did a great job of explaining what amino acids are and why we might want to take some supplements for the essential amino acids.
Right, yeah. So I had tried the Keon amino acids before, but I didn't really understand what they were or why I should take them. I will say they were very tasty.
Okay.
I didn't stick with it like she said you have to do. So I can't testify to how effective they were because I wasn't doing it effectively.
Yeah.
But they tasted good. I will say that.
Well, I almost asked her, how do they taste? And then she started talking about it. But it was really nice of them to offer a 20% discount on the amino acids too, the essential amino acids. That's great.
What was that website again? It was getkeon.com/fit.
I think one thing that really surprised me was how much protein she said that she eats. That's just a lot more than I had thought. I don't know why. I thought I was doing pretty good with, 90 to 100 grams, and that's not even close for me, So interesting.
Yeah, and I think I'd heard that before, but I know I don't get anywhere near what, based on that number, that I should be getting.
Well, and I think part of it is how well your body digests things. If your digestion isn't doing what it needs to, especially for the essential amino acids, then it really makes sense what she's talking about,
Yeah. And so, it's one of the things you get your blood work done and it'll tell you what your protein number is. Now, I know mine tends to run low, because I've had doctors say, you need to eat more protein. And I'll say, well, I'm actually eating a fair amount of protein. I think I'm just not processing it well.
Well, and I think when they set what's the right amount of protein, they aren't thinking that you're deadlifting a lot of weights. I mean, you do a lot of weightlifting, and I think that's where it becomes really important. I mean, we all know we need to strength train, and some of us do better than others. And Jill, I think you're doing a great job. I can just tell. So,
Well, thank you. But the protein does become important. And it was interesting about how if you take the amino acid supplement, it goes right into your system. So it's available to your body right away.
Right.
That was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said about, this is really important for people who are vegans and vegetarians because it's the essential amino acids that aren't available, with your body just making those amino acids. So,
right.
There's a lot to learn about health, isn't there? I mean,
Yeah. Yes, there is.
I think I'm doing good if I eat leafy greens every day.
Yes, until they tell you shouldn't eat them.
Well, I still really like them. I wash them real well. So,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Well, if you're listening, let Chris and me know if you have tried supplementing amino acids or creatine or even just protein. We'd love to hear what your experience has been.
Absolutely. We'd love to hear from you. And you could leave us a message at becomingellie.com. You can also find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
Please consider joining our private Becoming Ellie Facebook group, where we encourage and support each other.
If you enjoy our podcast, you may also want to listen to a podcast that discusses aging well and supporting the aging loved ones in our lives. Fading Memories is a podcast that provides insights and guidance to caregivers on communicating effectively, managing stress, and coping with grief and loss.
Host Jennifer Fink discusses brain health recommendations, effective caregiving techniques, and self-care strategies, all crucial for aging gracefully and navigating the challenges of caregiving.
Tune in to Fading Memories at fadingmemoriespodcast.com, all one word, for practical advice and compassionate support on your journey of aging well.
It was great talking with you today, Chris. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.